The crowd was thick on the main street of Kavros 3, the biggest human colony in the Outer Rim. People laughed, clapped, and waved small banners as music played from glowing speakers. It was the annual Unity Parade, meant to show peace between humans and the Zarn Empire. But peace, like glass, can break without warning. A small girl named Ava stood on the sidewalk. She was 12 years old, holding a basket of blue flowers. Her eyes were wide with hope. She wasn't here to sell the flowers. She had picked them herself and wanted to give them away to soldiers, anyone who smiled. That was when the Zarn Patrol came walking by. They were tall, armored, and strange-looking. Their purple skin shone under the sun, and their heads looked almost like snakes with bones. They walked with pride, silent and cold. Their leader, Commander Reth, walked in the front. His boots were black metal. His eyes scanned the crowd like a hawk watching prey. Ava stepped forward from the sidewalk and held out one blue flower. "For peace," she said, smiling. The commander looked down at her, then looked up at the humans nearby. Some were watching, some were clapping. Others were scared to look. Then he struck her, a sharp, open-hand slap across her small face. She fell to the ground with a short cry, her basket flying, flowers scattering. A gasp rushed through the crowd. Everyone froze. The music stopped. Ava didn't move. Her cheek was red and swelling. Reth sneered. "Filthy child," he muttered. He turned away. He thought no one would stop him. But someone had already started walking. From the back of the crowd, a man had stepped forward. He wore a gray jacket, old boots, and his head was shaved close. His name was Duran. He didn't shout. He didn't ask why. He walked slowly, calmly, eyes locked on the alien who hit the girl. The other Zarn soldiers noticed him. They raised their weapons. "Back away," one of them ordered, but Duran kept walking. "Stand down," another soldier shouted, but his voice shook. Something in Duran's eyes. It wasn't normal. There was no fear, no anger, just silence. Reth turned back and laughed. "Another fool. Go back to your place, human." Darren stopped. He looked at Ava, who was still on the ground, holding her cheek, tears falling. Then he looked at RETs. Then Darren moved. It was one hit. Just one. Darren's fist hit the side of Reth's skull with a deep, cracking sound that echoed like thunder. Bone split. Metal cracked. Reth's eyes rolled back, and he dropped. His massive body slammed into the ground with a heavy thud. Dead. Gasps turned to screams. The other aliens raised their weapons, but Duran was gone. He moved like a shadow. He struck again. Second soldier flew into a street post. Third went through a food cart. One tried to aim. His arm bent the wrong way before he could fire. It was too fast, too clean, too brutal. People screamed, but they didn't run. They watched. Some filmed, some cried, some cheered. When it was over, 5 alien soldiers were lying broken in the street. The rest had run. Darren stood in the middle of the street. His chest rose and fell, slow and steady. His hands were red, not with blood, but with justice. He looked down at Ava. A woman from the crowd ran out and picked her up, whispering, "You're okay, sweetheart." "You're okay," Duran said nothing. He turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one dared. The city police came late, too late. The alien bodies were taken away. The Zarn Empire screamed for answers, for punishment, for revenge. They called it an act of war. They demanded the human government surrender the man who attacked their officers. But no one could find him. Surveillance cameras showed only flashes of movement, faces blurred. Duran was like a ghost, a shadow, a name with no past, but the video of the slap and the skull-crushing spread across the colonies like fire. Millions watched it in just 1 hour. On human channels, people called him a hero. On Zarn networks, they called him a terrorist. To others, he was something else, a symbol. Proof that humans would no longer bow. And while politicians talked and soldiers moved, Duran sat in a dark room far from the city. He was sharpening a blade. Behind him, a wall screen showed a news report. It replayed the moment he punched Reth. Over and over. Darren didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just whispered. This was never about one girl. This was the start. Far above the planet, a red light blinked inside an old satellite that had been quiet for decades. Now it was awake. The news spread faster than light, across every human colony, from orbit stations to desert domes. People watched the same footage again and again, a small human girl struck by an alien soldier, and one silent man who stepped forward, shattered. A skull, and vanished like a ghost. Some called him a terrorist. Others whispered the word legend, but nobody knew his name, not yet. In a dark, damp bunker deep beneath the green jungles outside the Kverse 3 capital, the man in the gray jacket sat alone. His hands were wrapped in thick bandages. His breathing was slow, calm, controlled. A flickering screen in front of him showed a dozen headlines. Mystery man kills Zarn commander in one strike. Who is the human avenger? Zarn Empire demands justice, places bounty on human. Killer Duran didn't blink. He wasn't surprised. He had been waiting for something like this. Something to wake him up. Something to pull him back in. For years, Duran had tried to live quiet. The wars were over, or at least that's what they told people. But he knew better. Peace was just a mask worn over the broken bones of history. The Zarn Empire never wanted peace. They wanted obedience, and now they were coming for him. The Zarn. High Command had already sent a kill squad to Kavros 3, not to arrest, to erase. 12 elite soldiers, genetically engineered and enhanced. No names, no ranks, only code names, like Blade, Scourge, and Vex. They didn't speak, they didn't ask. Questions. They didn't leave survivors. They landed silently on the far edge of the city. Their scanners locked onto the footage. One blurry face. One punch. One target. They started hunting, but they didn't know who they were hunting. 6 hours later, thick fog moved through the jungle outside the city. The kill squad spread out, weapons drawn, motion detectors scanning the trees. Everything was quiet. It was too quiet. Suddenly a snap. One soldier turned nothing. Another heard a hiss in his helmet, then silence. When they regrouped, 2 were missing. One by one, the jungle swallowed them. Darren didn't fight like a man. He fought. Like a ghost. No sound, no warning, no mercy. He used traps, shadows, and precision. He didn't aim to kill fast. He wanted them afraid. A Zarn soldier named Scourge ran through the trees, panting. He wasn't used to fear, but something was. Hunting him, not an animal. A man. A human. He tripped, rolled, got back up, and saw a figure in gray standing. It's just a few feet away. Darren's eyes were calm, cold. Scourge raised his rifle. Darren stepped in, grabbed the barrel, twisted it like paper, and drove a blade through the soldier's chest. 7 of the 12 died that night. 2 more vanished and were never found. Only 3 made it back to their ship, and one of them was missing an arm. The surviving aliens returned to their fleet in orbit and reported what they saw. He's not normal, one whispered. He doesn't speak, doesn't hesitate. He's not human, he's something else. The Zarn High Command watched the report and fell silent. Then they increased the bounty, from 100,000 credits to 3 million. They sent a message to every bounty hunter, mercenary, and outlaw across the galaxy. Find him, bring his head back. On the surface, the people of Kavros 3 were changing. At first they were scared, then curious now. Hopeful videos of the broken Zarn soldiers in the jungle were leaked. Anonymous files. Helmet cam footage, screams, blades, silence. All signed with one symbol, a cracked alien skull. People started whispering in the streets. He's still out there. He's watching. If the Zarn hurt us, he'll come again. They didn't know his name, so they gave him one, the Skullbreaker. Some humans began to paint that symbol on walls and weapons. It wasn't just rebellion anymore. It was belief. In a private hospital hidden in the city, Ava lay in bed, tubes in her arm, monitors blinking. Her mother sat beside her, crying softly. Ava hadn't moved since the strike. Doctor said she was in a coma, but her brain was active, too active, like it was rewiring itself. On one screen, her brainwaves flickered in strange patterns, not normal, human. No one understood what it meant, but something inside her was waking up, far away. In the orbiting wreck of a forgotten satellite, a soft blue glow filled a dusty chamber. The light pulsed, systems activated. A robotic voice whispered, "Beacon accepted. Identity match." Darren Valak, Project Harbinger, reactivated. Back in the bunker, Duran stood over a crate he hadn't opened in 20 years. He unlocked it with a blood scan. Inside was an old metal badge worn and blackened. Earthstrike, 4CE Unit, HRBE. Unit, HRB, ER below it. Ancient weapons hummed to life. He took off his gray jacket and picked up the armor piece by piece. Rain fell hard over the northern ridge of Kavath 3. Thunder cracked above the jungle trees, and lightning lit the thick clouds. The Zarn ship cut through the storm like a dark blade. Its hull was quiet, smooth, invisible to human radar. Inside, the 12 elite soldiers stood in silence. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. Their armor was polished bone steel, made for fear. This was the Karn Division, the most feared hunter unit in the Zarn Empire. They were trained not to fight, but to erase. They had one target. The human who killed Commander Reth. He was only a man, so they were told. But none of them were ready for what waited in the jungle below, 6 hours earlier. Darren stood barefoot on the wet stone floor of his hidden bunker. Rain pounded the metal. Roof above. He was sharpening a combat blade, slow and steady. The room around him was filled with old gear from a war no one talked about anymore. Heavy armor pieces. Obsolete weapons. Maps of the jungle printed on thin crystal sheets. In the corner, a long steel case hummed with quiet power. He opened it. Inside was a rifle, no longer built by humans. Illegal, forgotten, deadly. He checked it. Fully charged. He looked at a screen blinking red. The message was short. 12 incoming. Touchdown. In 18 minutes? Duran nodded once. He put on the final piece of his old armor. Gray with black stripes on the shoulders. The symbol of a dead force. Harbinger Unit. Earth Strike Force. He whispered to no one. Let them come. Now, the Karn soldiers moved through. The jungle, silent as smoke. They split into pairs, each scanning a different direction. No communication, only movement. Only killing one pair past a fallen log. A red light blinked under the bark. Too late, the explosion tore both aliens apart, throwing bones and armor into the trees. Trap One growled. The rest moved faster, but Darren wasn't finished. He had studied their tactics, he knew how they hunted, so he became the prey they couldn't catch. The second team crossed a shallow river. One of them noticed a shimmer in the water, bent to scan it. That was his mistake. Darren dropped from the trees. Like a shadow, his blade cut across the alien's throat in one fast motion. The other turned and fired, but hit nothing. Duran was already behind him. Another scream, 2 more gone. By the time the Karn realized they were being picked apart, half of them were dead. One of the survivors, called Turk, was the biggest among them. He had fought on 6 planets, killed over 300 humans. He wasn't afraid of one man. He charged through the vines, growling, his twin axes spinning in both hands. "Show yourself," he shouted in his native tongue. A rustle, flash dot, then pain. Something sharp drove through his leg. He dropped to one knee. And Duran stepped out from behind a tree. Their eyes met. Tay raised an axe. Duran fired one shot from his rifle, straight through Turk's skull. 2 Karns were left. They activated emergency extraction. A red beacon blinked on their belts. Their ship, hidden in orbit, began descending for pickup. They thought they could escape. But Darren had already reached the landing zone. He planted charges along the ship's path. When it entered the atmosphere, the weapons fired automatically, anti-orbit. Mines activated by old tech, Darren kept buried for decades. The ship never made it to the ground. It exploded in a cloud of fire and black smoke. High above the trees, the last two Karns saw it burn. They dropped to their knees, and then one after the other. They disappeared into the jungle, screaming hours later. Darren stood over the last body, the symbol on the Karn's armor sharp. White Claw Marks was now covered in dirt and blood. Darren turned off his visor, his face calm. He walked back to his bunker as the storm faded. Across the colony, news spread. A few government soldiers found the bodies. They said it was wild animals, rogue bots, storm damage. But the people knew the truth. Leaked photos showed the same thing, a human fist symbol. It's painted in alien blood. Marked on the Karn's armor, it became a sign of hope, a sign that humans weren't afraid anymore. In a dark room, orbiting a distant star, Zarn generals watched the footage. One turned to the others. "This isn't a soldier," he said. "This is war." They increased the bounty again. 5 million credits. Alive or dead, they ordered, preferably dead. Back in the city, a woman held her daughter's hand beside a hospital bed. Ava was still silent, but the machines attached to her were blinking faster, her heart rate rising. Brainwaves spiking then. Her hand twitched. Her mother gasped, and Ava's eyes opened. They were glowing faint blue. She sat up slowly, looked around, and whispered one word. A quiet beep echoed through the hospital room. Machines flashed green, yellow, and red. Doctors hurried down the hallway. Nurses whispered. The monitors were going crazy. Inside the room, Ava sat up in bed. Her eyes were glowing faint blue, soft like moonlight. Her hands shook, her heart raced. But she was awake. For 12 days she had been in a coma, and now she was fully aware. The doctors stared at the screen. Brain scans showed activity far beyond normal. Her thoughts were moving faster, sharper. Some parts of her brain, once silent, were now glowing. None of it made sense. No one knew why she was alive. No one but Ava. She looked at her hands. Something felt wrong. Or maybe something felt new. The moment the alien soldier hit her, she had seen something inside his hand. A flash of light, a pulse. Her mind had gone somewhere, someplace dark, strange she could still feel. "It's like static in her bones, Ava," her mother asked gently, sitting beside her. Ava turned slowly. "Where is he?" she asked. "Who? The man in gray? The one who stopped them?" Her mother held her hand tighter. "He's gone. No one knows who he is. They say he saved your life." Ava nodded, but her eyes were far away. She remembered his face, his stare. Calm and silent, like a storm just waiting to break. And deep in her chest, she felt something growing. Something powerful and dangerous. Far from the city, Darren watched the news from inside his bunker. Ava was awake. He could see it in her eyes, even through the hospital camera feed. She had changed, just like he feared. He opened a locked case. Inside was a glowing red orb, the same color that flashed when Ava was struck. He had seen it before, during the last war. Zarn soldiers had used it once. Experimental tech, nanite-based mind weapons meant to test emotional control. It had been banned, or so they claimed. Now it was back, and somehow it had ended up in Ava. The next day, Darren walked through the hospital's underground tunnel in disguise. He wore a coat, hat, and carried no weapons. 2 guards stood outside her room, but he moved past them easily. Quietly, he entered her room at night. Ava was awake, sitting, waiting. "You're him," she said softly. Darren nodded. "You saved me." "No," he replied. "I stopped them, but you saved yourself." She looked at him strangely. "Something's inside me," Darren said. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. It had hummed in his palm. "This will tell us what they did to you." Ava reached for it. Before she touched it, the device sparked and shorted out. She hadn't even touched it. The light in the room flickered. Then everything went dark. Darren stood completely still. It's already spreading. Ava was scared. What is it? They used you, Duran said coldly. That slap wasn't just to hurt, it was to plant something. She looked down at her hands. Am I going to die? No, Darren said. You're going to live. But not like before. Later, in his hidden bunker, Duran trained her at first. It was simple movement, balance, control. But Ava was changing fast. She moved faster than normal. She could read patterns before they happened. Her reflexes sharpened every day. She could feel machines even when they were off. The nanotech inside her was growing. It was bonding with her nerves, making her something new. But it came with a price. Headaches. Flashes of voices. Strange images in her dreams once. She heard someone crying for help only to learn a child 3 miles away had broken his arm at the exact time she heard it. Darren warned her, if you don't control it, it will break you. Ava trained harder. Soon, she could fight. She could break steel bars with her bare hands. She could see in the dark. And she could sense movement through walls. Darren watched with a heavy heart. He had seen this before, 20 years ago. The Zarn Empire ran secret experiments on humans. They tried to fuse alien tech with human minds to create the perfect hybrid. Soldiers. But every subject died. Their minds couldn't handle the power except one, and she had survived it by accident. Now she was a weapon. One night, Ava asked, what if they do this to more girls? More children? Duran was silent for a long time. Then he said, they already did. He handed her a drive. This has coordinates to a hidden Zarn lab. Her eyes narrowed. Let's go. You're not ready. I don't care. Darren stood slowly. That road ends in blood. Ava looked him dead in the eye. Then I'll walk barefoot. The stars above Kavros 3 shivered. A massive warship, dark and silent, slid through the atmosphere. It didn't broadcast warnings. It didn't send messages. It came from deep space, no lights, no flags, just shadows and silence. The people on the ground didn't know it yet, but death was falling toward them. The ship was called the Kravik's Will, a Zarn-class command destroyer. Over 700 meters long, it carried a full legion of alien soldiers, shock drones, plasma cannons, and a single mission-level Kavros 3. Kill the ghost. Crush human hope. Inside the ship, Zarn Commander Vrol stood before a glowing red map of the colony. He didn't blink. His face was long and reptilian, eyes like black glass. Behind him, armored troops stood waiting for orders. Execute the strike, said calmly. The ship dipped toward the clouds. Down below, Duran watched the sky. He stood on a hilltop far outside the city, Ava by his side. They both saw the same thing. A black triangle blocking the moonlight. Ava clenched her fists. We can't stop that. It's too big. Duran didn't answer. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, glowing crystal. It pulsed deep blue. What is that? She asked. Something old, he said. Something we buried a long time ago. 20 years earlier, when the Earth-Zarn War ended, some human soldiers refused to surrender. They disappeared, vanished. Into colonies, jungles, mines. And they hid something. A secret weapon. Developed by Earth's final military division, Project Oracle. It wasn't a weapon in the usual sense. It didn't fire. It didn't explode. It listened. It watched. And it waited. Darren had activated it the day. The alien hit Ava. The signal had traveled through old satellites, jump relays. It's an ancient black code. Now it was awake, and it was angry as the Kraviks. Will dropped into lower orbit. The air around it began to crackle. Then something strange happened. Its systems started going dark. First, external sensors, then navigation, then shields. Commander Vrol frowned. Status. Unknown interference, sir, the tech officer shouted. Some kind of ancient code is flooding our systems. The lights turned red, and then silence, outside. 6 bright lights circled the ship like sparks. They weren't ships. They were fragments of Oracle autonomous AI-based defense units built from dark matter alloys. They moved like ghosts. They thought like humans. And they killed. Without warning, one of the drones sliced through the ship's main engine like it was paper. The entire warship buckled. Then another tore through the weapons bay inside. Alarm screamed. "We're falling." One soldier shouted. "No," Fro muttered. "We're dying." The sky above Kavros 3 lit up as the Kravix will exploded in midair, breaking into 3 burning pieces that fell into the jungle far from the city. The blast shook buildings and shattered windows, but no human died. Only silence followed. And then, cheers dot across the colony. People came outside and looked up at the sky. Smoke twisted through the stars. Hope returned to their faces. One woman whispered, "He did it again." Darren stood with Ava on the hilltop, staring at the fire in the sky. "They won't stop," Ava said. "No," Darren replied. "But now they know we won't either." A day later, every major Zarin colony received a coded message. No video, just a voice. DarrensVoice.com, cold. "Touch another child, and I will bring fire to your worlds." Duh. Zarn leaders sat in dark rooms, staring at the message on repeat. They weren't afraid of humans, but they were afraid of him. The bounty was raised. Again, 10 million credits. Dead only, meanwhile. Resistance groups on other human colonies saw the message and rallied. They painted the cracked skull symbol on walls, helmets, and ships. A new movement was rising. One built not on fear, but on vengeance. They called themselves the Defenders. In the shadows, Ava trained harder than ever. She could now jump twice her height, punch through solid walls, and hear voices from miles away. Her mind was growing stronger, but she still had one question that kept her awake. How many more kids did they do this to? Deep in the jungle, Darren found the answer. The night was cold, and the bunker was silent. Ava sat alone in the training chamber, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at the steel block in front of her. It was solid 6 inches thick, forged from hardened Zarn armor plating. Even high-powered rifles could pierce it. Darren stood on the far side of the room, arms crossed, watching. "You ready?" he said. Ava shook her head. "No. Something's not right inside me. Can feel it pushing, growing." "That's not fear," Duran replied. "That's power." Ava stepped forward. Her breath slowed, her pulse calmed. She raised her hand, then lowered it. "I can't." Darren didn't move. "Then this war is already lost." Her hands clenched. Her skin sparked with faint blue light, and then, without warning, she moved. Her foot slammed into the ground. The steel block cracked. Down the middle, the floor beneath it buckled, and the walls vibrated. Darren blinked once. He didn't clap. Didn't cheer. He simply said, "Now we begin." Over the next 10 days, Ava trained harder than ever. Her mind absorbed data faster than any computer. She could see energy patterns, hear electric signals, control drones by thought. Her bones were stronger. Her skin healed faster. And her strength was something beyond human. But it came with a cost. She could no longer sleep. Every night, she heard whispers, voices calling from far away. Children crying, begging, "Help us." She heard them even when awake. When she told Duran, he nodded. "The nanites inside you, they're linking, connecting you to the others." "Others?" she asked. "They were more like you." Ava stepped back. "Where are they?" Darren opened a locked drawer. Inside was a shard of metal with Zarn symbols burned into it. He placed it on the table and activated a hologram. A map appeared cold, dark and full of blinking red lights. "These are the labs," Darren said. "The places they experimented on human children." There were over 50 across the galaxy. Ava's jaw tightened. "How many are still alive?" Aaron looked at her. "We don't know. Then we find out." That night, they flew toward the nearest hidden lab. It was buried beneath the surface of Delta Verge, a long-abandoned mining colony. The facility was dead on the outside, no lights, no ships, no signals, But as they moved underground, everything changed. Hidden cameras activated. Defense systems scanned there. DNA. And a soft voice spoke from the walls. Subject 721 identified. Welcome home. Ava's eyes narrowed. They think I belong here. The doors opened. Inside the lab, they found rows of glowing pods. Hundreds of them, inside each one a human child. Some were asleep, some were not breathing, and some... Watching them, Ava stepped toward one pod. The child inside looked exactly like Hersame. Eyes, same skin, same age. Then the girl in the pod opened her eyes and whispered, "Help us." Ava fell to her knees, her mind filled with pain. Screams, memories not her own. She saw flashes of experiments. Needles, restraints, drills. She felt it all. Every moment they copied me, she whispered. Cloned me, changed me. Darren scanned the systems. These kids. Some are part human, parts aren't. Others are full human but with altered minds. They were building soldiers, Ava said, her voice shaking. No, Darren said. They were building slaves. Suddenly the alarm blared. Security breach. The system shouted. Facility locked down in 60 seconds. Darren ran to override it. Ava stood frozen. She looked at the pods at all the other children. They were just like her. She couldn't leave them. I have to save them, she said. You don't have the time, Darren snapped. The whole lab is rigged to burn itself. Ava stepped forward. Her hands glowed. The floor shook. She closed her eyes and connected. Her mind reached into the system. She didn't know how she just did. Every wire, every lock. Every seal bent to her will. The countdown stopped. Darren stared. You shut down a Zarn facility? With your mind? Ava didn't answer. She was already walking down the hallway, toward the cryo-control chamber. Inside, she found one master pod. Larger than the rest, it was labeled Prototype Alpha Ava Prime. She stared at it in horror. Inside was a perfect clone, but this one was smiling. Its eyes were open, alive, and glowing red. The air in the cryo chamber was freezing, yet Ava felt heat crawl up her spine. She stared at the pod. The girl inside was her same face, same height, same scars, but the smile wasn't human, and the eyes glowed red like a fire ready to consume. Everything, who are you? Ava whispered. The pod hissed. Steam poured out as the lock disengaged with a sharp hiss. The glass lifted, and the clone stepped forward, barefoot, dressed in a black skin suit lined with red circuits. I'm what you would have been, the clone said softly, if they had finished the programming. Daron aimed his weapon instantly, back in the pod. But the clone didn't flinch. She looked at Ava and tilted her head. He's scared of you, of both of us. Ava stepped forward. Not like you. Oh, but you are, the clone whispered. You just don't remember. 10 years ago, inside a secret lab, Zarn scientists surrounded a young girl, barely 6 years old. She screamed as needles drilled into her spine. Her eyes rolled back. Her blood was too strong. Her body fought the nanites. She wasn't supposed to survive, but she did. They tried again and again to erase her memories, rewrite her loyalty, rewire her emotions, but she kept fighting. And one day, she escaped. That girl was Ava, but what the Zarn didn't tell her. What she never knew was that her DNA was used to make 5 more. Only one survived. Prototype Alpha back in the chamber. The clone slowly walked in a circle around Ava. You think you're the good one, she said. You think saving those kids makes you pure? Ava stayed calm. I don't kill unless I have to. The clone smiled. That's why you'll lose, Daron interrupted. Ava, she's not stable. We shut this down now. But Ava stepped forward, her voice steady. No, not yet. She looked her clone in the eye. Why did they make you? To break human resistance, the clone replied. To be inserted into colonies like a virus. To kill quietly. To destroy trust. And why didn't they use you? The clone's eyes darkened. Because I refused to follow orders. I didn't want to kill humans, I wanted to rule them. Suddenly lights flickered. Sirens wailed. Security systems came back online. The whole lab was waking up. They're coming, Darren said. The Zarn, reinforcements. It turned to Ava, we blow this place. We go now. But Ava stared at the clone. What happens if I leave her behind? She escapes, Duran said. She burns worlds. The clone smiled wider. You can't kill me, she whispered. I'm you. Ava walked to the console and placed her hand on the main override. You're wrong, she said. I'm not you. She reached deep into the system with her mind, and she locked the clone's genetic signal out of every pod, every door, every weapon. The clone's eyes widened. What are you doing? Finishing what they started, Ava said. She triggered the lock. The clone screamed and lunged, but the pod slammed shut around her, trapping her in a stasis field. Red light pulsed inside as the chamber began to freeze. She'll wake up. Eventually, Darren warned. Then we better make sure she wakes up to nothing. Ava replied. Together, they evacuated the children, placing each cryopod onto stolen transport crafts. As the lab's self-destruct core powered up, Darren looked. Back at the chamber one last time, he saw the frozen version of Evasi smiling even in stasis. Is she really you? He asked quietly. Ava looked at the flames rising from the lab floor. No, she said. She's what happens when you let the darkness win. The escape ships broke through the clouds. Behind them, the lab exploded, sending a fireball into the sky. Ava sat silently beside a sleeping child in one of the CRYO-pods. There were 20 children saved, but hundreds more out there, and one nightmare still locked in ice. For now, in the Zarn capital. Deep in the core systems, the High Emperor watched a flickering screen. He saw the clone's face, the facility logs, the destruction. He didn't blink. He turned to his council. Activate Omega Protocol, he said coldly. What does that mean? One advisor asked. The Emperor's voice was sharp. It means burn Earth.